brought his 6-shooter over because his gearbox went out in mid-flight. So let me show you that. He's already taken off the front gear assembly, and I'll kind of show you that. And the teeth are kind of really knocked off here on the ends. And as you can see, this gear is just really, there's no teeth on it. So I'll have to remove this whole, it's a B gearbox, so I'll have to remove this whole B gearbox. In the process, it looks like he said that something, all the springs came off his muffler, and it looks like something went into the propeller, because here's the propeller, and there's a big chingered out here part on his propeller, and some of the other blades are kind of chingered. So it looks like something went into the propeller, stopped the propeller, and the gearbox just kind of went out, and he made a safe landing. So right now I'm going to take off this gearbox so that I can mount it on a workbench, start working on it. All right, I've removed the case that goes to the engine, and this bearing looks like it needs to either be replaced or cleaned really well. Some grease or oil was getting out. And here's the little culprit we need to really replace, is this guy. And you can see it's just, the gears are just shredded. So I need to take that out. And to get this out, I have to actually heat this up and then pop it off with a gear puller. All right, to remove this gear, I've got to go back here to the pulse line, if you can see in there, and I've got to cut that, put a pin in it, so that the engine doesn't turn when I take this off. Also, just to show you, there was some leakage in here from the seal, goes in back to the gearbox mount. Carburetors to get to, I don't know if you can see it in there, but there's a, it's the pulse line tube, and what you do is you put a pin in it. Let me see if I can line that up again. Oh no, be here forever trying to figure it out. There, and you put a pin in it. Okay, now we're going to pull off this gear, and I'm going to have to heat it up so that it'll slide off because it's on a, it kind of binds itself. Oh, what the heck is that called? Anyway, it's secured on there. I need to use my wheel puller to pull it off. I'll have to heat up the area here to get it off. I've got a little wheel puller now, not CPS, but Rotax sells a puller that you can put in this gear that is for $188, but I thought I'd just use my little wheel puller. Okay, I'm going to heat it up using a propane, and they actually suggest MAP gas, which is a little hotter, but so it takes a little longer with propane. But we'll just go ahead and heat up this whole gear, kind of make it swell so that we can get it off. Okay, now we've got it loose here, and we're just going to pull the gear off. This gear is going to be replaced, and as you can see, it was really took the gears down to about nothing. All right, we have removed the gear, and now the next step will to remove this bearing. I'd like to really get into this bearing, clean it up pretty good. In fact, it feels kind of locked right there. Then the next step will be to disassemble the gears in this box, because we also have to replace this gear. As you can see, it's right. See the edges right here are kind of knocked off a little bit. So we'll remove this gear also. Now to remove this gear, I've had to put it in a press, because we've got to take out these little keepers right here on the back side of this, on the top of this. There's a couple little keepers in here. I don't know if you can see it or not, but right in here. So we're going to press this gear down, then remove those little keepers in there. After we've pressed it, the best way to get these little keepers out is with a magnet, and you just kind of pull them out. There's 2 of them. So, and then we'll take this out of the press, and we'll start disassembling this gear. Okay, we pulled the shims and the washer off. Now we're just going to pull the gear off, and underneath this should have like a knuckle that this rides on. There we go. And so you can see the knuckle. You've got to look at this knuckle really good. Make sure there's no wear on it, because this is what makes the chatter when you have your idle real low and makes a lot of noise in the gearbox, is this knuckle chattering on top of each other. So you want to look for a lot of wear on that. Okay, we'll start disassembling this. We have to order this. They come in a set, and so we're going to replace this one anyway. Now we remove the gear and the knuckle. Remember, I showed you the knuckle that does a lot of chattering as it rattles inside that gear. Also inside the gearbox we have 3 sets of washers, and these washers are bent. Let me kind of concave. Let me kind of show you these guys. They're kind of concave, and they go in together like this, and what it does is kind of give a little cushion to the propeller as it's turning. And we have 3 sets of those, so I'm going to lay those out right here. 3 sets. Make sure I don't lose anything. I don't want any parts left over. You know how that is. Okay. And then we're going to have to, we'll check that bearing, and then we'll have to push the spindle out with our press. And I got kind of a little made-up jig here, and this holds the casing of the gearbox, and I'm just going to take with my plunger here, and we're just going to come down, and we're going to push this gear right out of the box, the gearbox. All right, I'm at the point now where I need to just order the parts and then put the gearbox back together, and it should be good as new. So the next sequence will be actually as I reassemble this gearbox. Just before assembly, just one more shot of all the parts that is in that little B gearbox. And so we have, we took out the front bearing, and we found that the front bearing is also bad, has a real bad rub on it. So we need to replace the front bearing. These 2 gears are in a set. Knuckle is good, and everything else seems to be all right. The housing is good. So all we need to do is replace 1, 2, 3, plus the seal and gaskets. All right, we're going to start reassembling our gearbox, and these are all the parts that came from Leading Edge. I should give them a plug. They really sent these parts really fast and really packaged them well. This is just a part to the muffler that we're going to get rid of the springs. So we're going to start putting those parts in. What we're going to do is put this seal back in, and you can see there's a little bitty ridge. It's called a boss or something. It's a little bitty ridge, and we're going to press that seal right up against it. We're going to use a 32 millimeter, and as you can see, that fits right in it. And we're going to press that right into the gearbox. Cup washer in, and you can see that it's chamfered on one edge, one side, and that's because it fits right over the propeller shaft here. So that goes in next, and we'll just slide it right in there. And then next is the bearing. And we have a new bearing because the old one got ruined during the when the whole gear shaft and everything failed. So we have to press this guy in, and I have to heat this body up, this aluminum body up, to actually get this bearing in because it's so tight. So we'll kind of heat that whole thing up and just press that bearing in. Okay, we'll just kind of heat this case up a little bit just to drop that bearing down inside. And it doesn't take much, just get a little warm. And we'll just press that bearing right in. All right, I pressed the bearing in. The next step is to put the snap ring in to hold the bearing in, and then we'll put the shaft in after that. Okay, I put the snap ring in, or the keeper, and now I'm going to put the gear in here, and we're just going to kind of put it in here and slide it down, turn it around till it kind of just follows in. It'll fall right in. I'll check on that later. All right, we've kind of tapped the shaft in, so now we're going to start putting our rings in. Our first ring just slides in over the top here. And the second ring has a small little groove. I don't know if you can see it. And that goes toward up. That goes up toward us. So, and that slides on. The next is the 3 bent washers. And we'll start putting those on one at a time and just line them up in there. Next is our dog gear. And we want to make sure there's no worn parts on this thing. So we'll check the dog gear and we'll just slide it on. And then next comes the main gear. Okay, we're going to slide the main gear over the dog gear. That's going to slide right down to where you can feel it kind of work. There it goes. And next we're going to put the little keepers to hold that in. Oh, I forgot to show one thing. There's a groove here, and in that groove these little keepers have to fit. So that has to go actually into the press, and we'll put a little shim here, and that's there. And then we'll put the keepers that have to go in here. We'll put them into the press, use our little push down. We'll push this down so that we can put the keepers in, the Loctite gear in. The keepers have a little groove. I don't know if you can see that or not. A little groove, and that goes up, so that's got to go toward you, and it fits right in this washer type, and that's going to hold that gear down. So we're going to put it in the press. We're going to press it down, and then put the keepers in to lock it in. All right, we've kind of pressed this down. Let me kind of show you a light so that we can show the groove. And we're going to put the keepers right in that groove. That completes our one side of the gearbox. And our next step is to put on the shaft gear. And so we're going to put the shaft gear on. This requires about 52 foot-pounds of pressure on that bolt, and Loctite of 222. Okay, we're going to tighten this down to 52 foot-pounds. We have our engine lock so that we can tighten this down, and I have a little clicker, half-inch, 1-pound torque wrench. Okay, we've reached 52 pounds and Loctited that bolt in. So now our next step is to come over to the other half of the gearbox, and we're going to put in this O-ring. And we voted a new O-ring because it looked like the other one was leaking. And just kind of press it in a little bit. I might even put a little grease in there just to hold the thing and make sure it doesn't come out. Okay, it's time to mount this onto the engine, and I'm just going to press it on here. And it does not need a gasket back here because you have that rubber O-ring. So we'll just kind of press that together. There it goes, kind of holds on. And we'll use Loctite on all the bolts. Okay, we've screwed our interior bolts in, and these bolts get torqued down to 18 foot-pounds. So that's 18 foot-pounds. Okay, we've torqued these down to 18 foot-pounds. There's my clicker. We'll do the second one just to make sure. 18 foot-pounds. Okay, I've put the gasket on, new gasket, and the next step now is to install the second half of the gearbox. And we're just going to kind of press it on there, and then we'll just bolt it up. Okay, I'm going to tighten these down to 18 foot-pounds, and we're going to kind of stagger them around so that I don't, I'll do one here, then I'll jump over here and kind of stagger it as I pull it into the casing. Okay, the gearbox is fairly complete here. We're going to put the plugs in at the top, which is a breather tube, or breather plug. We're going to put the little magnetic plug on the bottom. Then we have the two drain holes in the center here for the oil. And I'll show you how to add oil and let it kind of weep out. I put the magnetic plug in the bottom, and we're going to add oil through the breather hole here, through the top, until it weeps out to this bottom plug. And once it starts weeping, I'll put the, I've added Pennzoil, 80-90, but you can use about any of a thing, the gear oil. And as you can see, it's starting to weep out, and now I'm going to put that plug in. Just put the little plug in here to keep it from running out too far. Because you can have it a little bit over, it's not going to hurt anything. Because the gears splash up to, big gear actually splashes up before the smaller gear. Okay, that should stop that. weeping, and then we'll put the whole thing together. The final step in the gearbox assembly is to safety wire this breather tube, the breather plug, these two port plugs or screws, and I've safety wired the top and the bottom, and my next step is to safety wire the two weep holes. And I like to kind of pinch it off here and put my wire twister right about here, and then twist it on from. Okay, I take my wire twister from here, and I'll just kind of twist it until get it nice right about there, and then I'll feed it through that other hole and then twist it again. Okay, completed a wire twist here, and I like to kind of take the ends here of these twists and kind of put a kind of so that nobody gets poked or pinched. So we kind of bend them so that they're out of the way. There you go. All right, that completes our rebuild of the B gearbox, and the next step now is just put the propeller on. And he had to order a new propeller because it got kind of mangled in the when parts went into the propeller and messed up the gearbox. So we'll do that, and then we need to set the pitch and balance it, and he's good to go.